It is time to talk some betting and time to talk some numbers. We've had just over a month of footy, and as it stands, the Premiership market tells us all we need to know. The Giants are still your flag favourites at $5, followed closely by the Swans at $6. D's and Blues at $7, Tommy, and Collingwood, who are back into $9 on the back of a couple of wins. 4 teams remain winless: Hawthorn, North, West Coast, and the Adelaide Crows. How did you see gather round last week, mate?
Yeah, good weekend of footy. I think nearly every favourite won. So I think there would have been a lot of happy punters out there on the weekend. But I think it's a great success down there. They do it so well. The venues are close, the Norwood Festival or whatever. But the footy on the field was impressive as well. Again, the Adelaide Crows, where they're at, is concerning. Brisbane bounced back as you'd expect. Port Adelaide, good win as well. So. All as we expected, I think.
Yeah, it did seem like a lot of the favourites prevailed for the punters. The team you just mentioned there, Adelaide, is the one I'm pretty keen to get stuck into this week. Still winless, as I said, and it doesn't get any easier for Matthew Nicks. The Crows take on the Blues on Saturday afternoon at Marvel. We all know about Adelaide's woes on the road. They only won 3 games away from home last year. Haven't won at Marvel since they beat the Hawks way back in 2021. Look, big problems all over the ground for Matthew Nicks. The Crows rank 17th in points, 16th in tackles, and it just suggests that their pressure isn't there. Plenty of problems through the midfield trying to get the ball forward. And side by side, the Blues are averaging nearly 7 more scoring shots compared to Adelaide. Rocky, give us your thoughts on Adelaide, and do you think Carlton 40+ is one of the best bets of the round?
Yeah, I think the numbers would suggest that. They obviously got their terrible road record, and to not win at Marvel to beat Hawthorn in 2021 is a long time ago. I know they don't play a lot of games there, but still, they're concerning me because of their better players are just out of touch at the moment. We've seen Tex, he's obviously got back issues. Yep. And he's struggling a little bit, but he's dominated that forward line for so long. It's about time someone stood up and took that off his hands. Jordan Dawson's probably a little bit down on his output. Laird as well. So the concerning one, though, for me is they pick and choose a little bit for me at the moment, the Adelaide Crows, when they want to have a crack and when they don't. It feels like the game gets away from them. And then they click into gear. A guy, and Rochelle is one that he's just out of touch, and then he'll spark for 10 minutes, look like he'll turn the game, but then we don't see him again for the rest of the game. So they need to be a lot more consistent. They've spoken about not changing too much what they've done. They played up here round 1, I think, against the Gold Coast Suns in Queensland, and said that they kept their routine almost exactly the same as what they'd previously done. So I don't think they've learned any lessons, and it's so hard to get a gauge on them. 0-5, they're no chance to play finals. I don't think they're any chance now anyway. I think about the pre-season, we both had them improving and going into the 8. But, they've been the biggest disappointment of the season so far.
So you're putting a pen through them in terms of finals?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's going to be too hard for them. Where they are now, you've still got the teams that sit outside the 8 at the moment. The 8 looks like there's some really good teams up there. The teams that sit outside Gold Coast, St Kilda, Collingwood, Brisbane, you'd expect maybe 2 of them to go in. So they're going to have to leapfrog potentially 6 or 7 teams to get in the finals, and I just can't see them doing that. It's
going to be a very tough run for the Crows. If you had to put your coaching hat on, though, what would you change? Would you try to put Rankin further forward to get Rochelle involved more? What would the outlook be? Yeah,
I'd try something different. I'd certainly have Rochelle and Rankin maybe swapping out of the goal square and on ball. Just continue to flip-flop that. It gives a different dynamic through the midfield. We know that they're being labelled as vanilla and all the same sort of players, so it gives it a different dimension through there. Their defence is certainly under the pump, and it's going to be under the pump this weekend against Carlton. You talk about how good their ball movement is at the moment, and also their scoring power. There's just so many holes in that team at the moment, and it's going to be a longer rebuild than what the Adelaide Crows want.
It feels like their window was right now to sneak into the 8 and potentially push for a top 4 spot and maybe play for a flag, but that window's already closing very quickly. We'll move on, though. We've got a couple of milestones worth watching this weekend. The first is Nick Larkey, who's looking for his 200th goal. He's sitting 1 shy at 199. Pretty quiet on the goal sheet last week against the Brisbane Lions, but North take on Geelong at the Cattery this week. He kicked 2 against the Cats on 3 occasions. But look, let's quickly talk about North. Getting the ball inside 50 has been very tough for them, which you'd have to expect from a young side. The Roos ranked bottom in the league, averaging just over 46 entries a game. Last year, Larkey only saw 3 or 4 inside 50 targets against the Cats in round 17, and that was sort of the case again last week against Brisbane. Firstly, how do they get North? How does North get Larkey involved more in terms of scoring?
Near impossible, I think. Unfortunately for him, he's the main man inside 50, and opposition clubs are always going to put their best players to him, and then potentially the second and third drop off. So I just see this week Stewart sitting in the hole and just dominating intercept marks again. I think he will get the 200. I think he'll at least kick one, but he's in for another tough afternoon or night down there, I think, against Geelong. They're just such a classy outfit, the Cats, $1.03, no value at all whatsoever in that game. But I just think that Larkey's the main target for North Melbourne, and they'll just cover that continually. They defend the ground so well, so it's going to be a tough afternoon for him.
I'd say you'd be getting a pretty short price for Larkey to kick his 200th. We're recording this before the player markets come out, but I reckon you'd be getting nothing less than about $1.50. The other milestone coming up is Lachie Neale. He's playing his 250th game on Thursday night against Melbourne. We all know about Brisbane's track record at the MCG. Big grudge match between two pretty big modern-day rivals now. Goes without saying that Lachie is a pretty big game player. We saw him come out against Collingwood in his 200th game a couple of years ago on Easter Thursday, had 33 touches and a goal that night. He's averaged close to 29 touches during his career against the D's, but was held a little bit on the quiet side when they met last season. Are you comfortable backing Lachie to have 30-plus touches in this one?
Yeah, I think so, and I think he's still outside the odds in the Brownlow market because, again, I don't see a lot of players taking votes off him at Brisbane. No, Heaney started really well. $17, we know he missed that game, but he's been really impressive the last couple of weeks. I'd say he probably gets 5 votes. You'd imagine he gets 3 on the weekend.
Oh, easily, yeah.
And then maybe 2 against Collingwood the week before. He was outstanding. He's clearly Brisbane's best player that game. Whether he can pinch a couple, maybe 3 in that game as well. So I think he's still over the value in the Brownlow market. I think he'll be up and about for the game, and there's no doubt Brisbane want to make a statement. They need to get their season going. They beat North Melbourne on the weekend, which isn't anything to write home about, is it? So an opportunity on a 6-day turnaround to take on Melbourne at the MCG. Great challenge for them. Lachie Neale's 250th, and he could potentially win another Brownlow medal. It
does seem like that. The other one worth watching just in terms of the Brownlow is Rosie. I think you're getting about $17 right now. It seems like it's a 2-horse race between him and Heaney after the first 4 rounds. Looking ahead, though, to our multi, we didn't go close last week. I got us off to a pretty poor start. I backed either team at 24.5 points or less between Port Adelaide and the Bombers. Port absolutely blew the doors off Essendon. Bombers such a tough team to get a read on. Only 6 goals on the night.
Quarter time were all over. I thought this is going to be a cracking contest, and Port Adelaide just blew them away. Yeah, Essendon, it's hard to get a read on them again. The first half the week before against St Kilda, disappointing, come back, win that game of footy, and then on the weekend they were there for the first quarter and that was it.
Yeah, Bombers might be on the no bet list, I think. I came good on Saturday. I backed Carlton to win versus Fremantle. Very controversial finish. I'm sure we'll talk plenty about that. And then you came good again in the player markets. Andrew Brayshaw, 30-plus disposals, absolutely flying. He's got to be in the Brownlow conversation too.
Yeah, dominated, didn't he? And Sarong, we spoke about that he might get more attention, and that's the way it panned out in the end. So they may take too many votes off each other, but then we went back to the well with Bont, and we should have just taken him 30-plus. He dominated, but just couldn't get that second goal for us.
Had his opportunities. Yeah, I think he only kicked 1 goal, 1 in the end. This week, though, we're going to mix things up. You've gone a couple of different players. You're leading us off in Port Adelaide versus Freo.
Yeah, we're going to wait until Saturday night to make sure that we're still alive before the weekend for the punters out there. I'm going to take Charlie Dixon, 2+ goals against Fremantle. I think they're a little bit short in defence. I think Charlie will get his opportunity and kick 2 in that game. And the other game on Saturday night, I'm going to take Carl Amon, 25+. I think he's finding plenty of the footy, and he will do that against the Gold Coast Suns.
Couple of good value bets there from you, Rocky. I'm sticking with the same game. I'm taking the Gold Coast Suns 1-39. We know they're very tough to beat at home, and they were arguably I mean, like there was a lot to like about them last week against GWS. Hawks were really good in that final term against Collingwood. This could be a cracking game. And then finally, I know we were a bit in disagreement about this one.
You sure you want to do this?
I'm willing to do it. You've got to be brave in these bets. I'm taking West Coast to cover against Richmond. I thought the Eagles, they led the Swans at halftime last week. We saw plenty from Harley Reid. Yo looks really good as well. Really tough spot too for Richmond coming from Adelaide to Perth. So I just think the travel factor there is interesting. And this is the shortest line we've seen on West Coast for a while. So plus 20.5. I'm taking West Coast to at least make this a contest. So just to recap, we've got Charlie Dixon to kick 2+ goals, Carl Amon 25+ disposals, the Suns 1-39, and West Coast to cover. We're getting $11.54 there, Rocky.
Juicy again. I think we're due to get another one up, aren't we?
If we get another one of these up, we might just call it all off. We'll quit while we're ahead. Great edition of the Snapshot, mates. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we get some winners home.
Good on you, Ryan.